Hello friends, I am back with another Microsoft Flight Simulator video. Recently, Working Title team released their version 0.10.1 of the G1000 NXi, which brings in a lot of nice features to the avionics or G1000. And this video is going to be about discussing what those are and taking a look at those newly introduced functions, features of this unit. I think this unit has came a long way from the default G1000. I don't think I will ever go back to the default G1000 and fly a GA aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator that uses G1000 as the avionics. The default one right now is pretty much useless, obsolete after having NXi, and a huge shout out to Working Title team for working on this avionics suite and making this get close to its real life companion. So without further ado, let's jump into the cockpit and let's start taking a look at the unit. We are intentionally starting cold and dark because I wanted to display the loading screens and initialization of the PFD, where we will see some text, some red markers saying the systems are not available yet, and we will take a look at that. And it's nice to see that it's simulated as a startup system calibration alignment type of thing. I think it's really nice to see that in the simulator, which I believe is also what the real life companion does. What I'm not sure about is whether it has anything to do with how the aircraft operates if you don't, wait the time and try to start your engines or whatever, which we will see here in a second. Alright, so let's go and bring our mixture to and throw RPM to full, and we'll spin our throttle to max. We'll turn our batteries on, and you will see a couple things happening here in a second. As you see, these red zones are saying that our units are not available. Now we have our nav radio and com radio available, but we don't see the standby frequencies yet, and there's the altitude and speed tape was in red text saying the system is initializing, and you see a text saying AHRS align, keep the wings level. AHRS is altitude and heading reference system, so that means it's aligning the altitude and the heading of the aircraft, and you have to keep the wings level. This is what guides you on whether your wings are level or whatnot. When it aligns, then the screen will go into the synthetic terrain to display you where you are at, which is great. So it's nice to have a startup screen, some system alignment simulated in the background. Seeing that happening in the simulator is great, and the MFD received most of the features with the new version, which we will take a look after starting our engines. Alright, let's start our engines. So alternators are on, we turn the nav lights and beacon lights to on, and throttle is full forward. We'll cycle the auxiliary fluid pump to prime the engine for 3 seconds, get the throttle back to roughly half an inch open. We'll open our cowl flap. We are, by the way, in Bonanza G36, one of my favorite aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator to fly with the G36 improvement mod. So just giving you all the information on what I'm using in this video. Magnetos to both. We'll set the parking brake and hit start. And we probably need to add more throttle. There we go. Oh. Alright. Sort of rough start there. We'll come back on the throttle to settle around 1100 RPM. So that's roughly 7 inches manifold pressure, if I remember this correctly, or 8 inches. Yep, looks like 8 inches. So now our engines are running. We can turn the avionics master switch on. When we do, you'll see a loading screen, and then you'll see a splash screen that is giving you the information about the unit, which shows you G1000 NXi working title 0.10.1 and the navigation data December 2nd to December 29th, 21. To pass this screen, you need to hit the enter soft key, which will then carry you to your MFD. Alright, the changes here are mostly around the flight plan. Now we have a setup screen. Let's just start with that and we'll come back to the flight plan screen here in a little bit. When you use the inner knob of the MFD to scroll to the aux page, you'll see a whole bunch of settings being brought into this menu, which was not here before. There is setup 1, and I think in the future there will be some setup 2, and there will be an option to roll it back to the defaults. Anything you see in cyan color is something that you can change. Some of these I believe doesn't have anything that you can change, so you can select nav angle to true or magnetic, and I'm not sure if all do affect the aircraft or not. There might be some that might come in a future update, so know that when you are changing these settings. You can change your distance speed units from nautical miles, knots to metric units. Same for altitude and vertical speed, temperature units, weigh. You can go between pounds and kilograms, which I like to use kilograms better than I do pounds, and we are in Europe, Basel right now, so that makes sense to use kilograms. And over here, this altitude buffer, I think these are for future. I wasn't able to get to that part of the settings, so maybe they will come in the later updates, but it's nice to see some settings menu here. The MFD data bar fields is changing the data fields in this bar at the top. As you see, ground speed, direct track, and estimated time en route. So you can change these fields by coming on the field that you want to change. So let's say if I want to change the track, I come on that one and use the outer one to see what my options are, and there are a bunch. You have to take a look at what each one does on your own time. It's gonna make this video so much longer if I go through each one, but I like to keep ETA up there, which is estimated time of arrival, so that I have a counter that shows me when I should expect to arrive to my destination. So that's the auxiliary menu change. If we go back, the others are not changed, so they still are the same as the previous revision, but there are some changes to the flight plan. To be able to demonstrate what has changed here, I need to enter a flight plan, and to do that I generated a flight plan in SimBrief that will take us from Basel to Zurich. So this is just something I quickly put together. It might not be the best route. They might be close airports where you don't have too much airtime. Actually, it's displaying 21 minutes of airtime, but in a GA aircraft I think that's doable. But I just want to have a flight plan that's generated by SimBrief so that we can enter the real information and take a look at what has changed. So I have previous tutorials about how to enter a flight plan, so I won't be explaining everything one by one, and we'll go very quickly here. But pressing this knob will bring the cursor, and then inner one will move it, and the outer one will let you make a selection. So our departure is Lima Foxtrot Sierra Bravo, and we will be departing from runway 15. We'll enter that and enter to accept. That's our origin. We'll go and bring the cursor back and go to destination and do the same thing. Destination is Lima Sierra Zulu Hotel, and we are landing or approaching to runway 14 according to SimBrief, so we will select that. We have one en route waypoint, and that waypoint is Hotel Oscar Charlie. Enter to accept. Now we have our routing planned. We need to select our procedures. Go to the procedures menu. We'll select our departure first. Our departure, actually we don't have a departure, it's direct. But we can just play with this to show you some departure options or what has changed here. So when you are selecting the procedures, they are also displayed and drawn on the map here, and the map will zoom in and out. You'll see this nautical mile range ring changing the value if it cannot fit the selected procedure into the screen. So that's LB7 November. If I go down, then it will zoom in, out, or bring it to the screen. Another one, now the range is 15 nautical miles, as you see over there. Another one. So then by doing this, you'll get to see each and every departure that's available in the unit that's pictured on the screen for you to see, along with the waypoints that you will be traveling or going through this star, the waypoints in the departure, not star, this is a SID, in the procedure. So we will select something randomly, because the SimBrief plan didn't give us or give myself a departure, and I know Basel is on the northwest of Zurich, so departing towards southeast sounds reasonable. So we'll just pick one that will take us to southeast, and this one looks suitable, so we will just stick with this one. Enter, load the departure. Excuse me. Now we will select our arrival, and same thing happens here as well. It will display what arrivals are available and what runway is meant for that arrival, which you can change if it's for multiple runways. It will show the first one in the list, and when you select, you will have the option to select a different runway. And as you see, it's displaying which ones are those, and we are very close actually, and that's why it's a little bit challenging to find a good one, because we are here and that's our destination. So if we select this, we will be on our star right after takeoff. But this is just for demonstration purposes, so I'll just find something that will suit our needs and helps me demonstrate what this will give us. Alright, I think I will stick with this one for now, and I know we are not, I think we are not approaching to runway 10, it's runway 14. Let's see if this will give us runway 14 after selecting. It does, so we can change it, and as you see, it changes real time when you make a selection. Our transition, I think, is going to be to here, so let's load this, and now we need to select our approach. So same thing again, procedures, select approach. We will be doing an ILS to runway 14, and when it cannot find anything, this happens. I don't know if this is a bug. It moves up to 400 miles and doesn't display anything on the screen, so maybe that approach is not meant for runway 14, or maybe there is missing information in the navigation database, so I'm not sure which one causes this. but we will be approaching runway 14 with ILS, or we can just try to do this GPS one, which will display some information for us, although there are some others like visual, or yeah, those are our options. Let's stick to this GPS approach, okay? And I think relax makes sense, because TRA, we know we are coming here. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. We'll use vectors. And I'm not worried about minimums at this point. We'll skip those and load this approach. I know this is not perfect, and you will see why when I zoom out. It's a very short flight plan, and this part is messed up because of that arrival we selected, but let's not worry about that. Okay, what I want to share is, now you have the option to select the altitude. So let's say if we are planning to cruise at 10,000, we are able to select our 10,000, and the VNAV will calculate our descent profile. One thing to note here, you cannot use G1000 VNAV for climbing. It doesn't do that. You have to use the VNAV for descent only. Okay, so let's just make a selection here. So again, rotating this knob will change the value. Rotating the inner one will move the digits. You start with first digit, and let's say we want to cruise at 9,000. You select 9,000, enter, and it will update all the others. And put a pencil symbol next to your selection to let you know that this is the one you selected and edited, which is nice to have. Okay, I'll bring the cursor back and scroll down, and anything you see in white text means the VNAV will not use it for descent or calculation. The ones in cyan color will be used by VNAV to calculate a 3-degree descent for your approach and arrival. So if we go, we have a 7,000. As you see, this is in cyan color, which means it's going to be used by VNAV. And as we go further down, you'll see a couple things here. So you'll see a 4,000 feet crossed. So this is telling you that with the current 3-degree profile, I am not able to meet this altitude. Either the distance is too short or there is no distance, so the unit doesn't know how to calculate that because it doesn't have a distance information, and that's something we cannot edit yet. Okay, and the other time this shows is when the distance is too close, like here, as you see, 3.9 miles. And if I make a change to this 7,000, it didn't change anything, but this happens because the aircraft says with the current profile I cannot make it to that altitude at this waypoint. So that's what it is trying to say. Alright, we will see a live demonstration in the air, maybe with a proper approach, so that we can look at it a little bit more precisely rather than trying to throw a flight plan that really doesn't make sense at this point. So these are the things that are brought. You can also go to the VNAV profile and change your descent angle. That will calculate your top of descent. If I can zoom out a little bit, you'll see the top of descent calculated for us by G1000 right there. If you can read that, I believe that's top of descent. And if I change this, you'll see that moving. So if I want to descend a little bit faster, I think we need to see this up in the air. It's not working. It was working when I was up in the air, so let's just leave it for now. But you can change the angle that you want to descend at, which will then calculate your top of descent accordingly to the selection you make here. Or when you are up in the air, you can also, I think, select the flight per minute, and it will calculate the angle for you when you have that selected. So these are the changes. Also, you get, this is probably from a previous update, but when you go to your destination, you get to see the METAR information for the selected waypoint: Zurich, Zulu time, wind information, cloud information, temperature, and the QNH. And if we go up, it doesn't do the same for our departure. I don't know why. Maybe this is just a feature thing that they will implement, but you get the weather for your destination airport. I think this was brought in an old revision, not with the new one, but I just wanted to point that out too. Alright guys, let me just climb, find the proper approach to display what I meant to display and talk about, and I'll bring you guys back when we are up in the air ready to discuss. See you in a little bit. Welcome back, friends. We are currently cruising at 8,000 feet on our flight plan route, and we are ready to discuss the things that we discussed and see them in action when we are up in the air. Let's jump into the cockpit. As you see, we are on en route to Schiphol and cruising at 8,000. So when I bring up the flight plan menu back, as you see, 7,000 is displayed in cyan color, and you see 7,000 as a altitude constraint for VNAV. So the VNAV profile is showing that we need to descend at 836 feet per minute, and we'll take a look how we change this. So you highlight the cursor, and let's say if I increase the altitude at relax by going to what we have discussed and make it 9,000 and enter, as you see now I have a pencil symbol saying that this is an edited altitude and a cross saying aircraft cannot meet this or cannot use this for VNAV calculation because it's above our current altitude and it is not able to get there. As we know, VNAV is not used for climb. To revert this back, I have two options. I can come back to there again and hit the clear button. Then we can remove the VNAV altitude. If I hit OK, it will just go back to 7,000. If I change another one, let's say this 5,000 to 6,000, it is showing as an edited altitude. Again, to revert back, now you get two options because the aircraft can meet that with VNAV. It's below our flight level right now. You get the option to remove that altitude, or you get the option to revert that back to what it was, which I will do in this case, and it will go back to 5,000. And as you scroll down, this displays all the altitudes that VNAV is going to use. Anything that's in white is not going to be used for VNAV. So there are 2 miles between these two waypoints. So if I go and change this from 4,000 to something below 4,000, like 2, enter, you will see that cross coming again. Now the aircraft is telling that with given profile I am not able to make it to this altitude in 2 miles. So that's the other reason you might get a cross on your altitude selection. And to revert back as this, as we discussed, click and hit select revert, and it will go back to 4,000. Another thing, you can click this VNAV profile button, which will take you down here. Let me zoom out a little bit so that we can see where we are. That's us, that's our top of descent calculation. If I decrease this, it recalculates top of descent real time. If I increase this, it also displays and recalculates top of descent based on the angle that I am asking me now to calculate. So this is something you can use to change your top of descent calculation and select a different descent angle, but 3% is the global default, so to speak. So these are the changes made to the flight plan menu, where you can make all these changes and select your different altitudes for VNAV calculation, and the VNAV will initiate top of descent. To do that though, I need to select a different altitude than this, like let's say 4000, and then activate VNAV here. You will see VPath displayed on the screen in white text, which means it's armed but not active yet because we haven't reached our top of descent. If I change this to a shallower descent angle, the top of descent calculation will change, and let's try how it will react to this new calculation. It should start descending at this altitude. It's a little bit bumpy, but we are almost at top of descent, and you will see VPath turning to green and the aircraft starting its descent when we pass top of descent. Here in a little bit, we are very close, and I have to get ready to adjust my throttle and RPM accordingly so that we don't overspeed the aircraft. And that will be the last thing I am going to show you guys, because we have seen a lot of videos. As you see, VPath is now flashing, which means our descent profile is active. I need to come back on the throttle to somewhere like 17 to 15 inches of manifold pressure and bring the RPM back to 2100. And it will give me the same speed that I need or close, and I will keep descending. Now as you see, the aircraft still takes 7000 as a constraint, and it will level off at 7000 and then go to the next constraint. So that's how VNAV works, and you can only use it for descent, as I mentioned at the beginning. In G1000, VNAV cannot be used for climb calculation like you have in an other Airbus or CRJ. Alright guys, I think this is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much, and I hope this video was useful to learn the new functions that are brought in with the revision 0.10.1 to G1000 NXi by the working title team. If you liked the video, please hit that like button. It helps this video to reach other flight simmers. And if you are not a channel subscriber, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications to get notified for future episodes. I will see you in the next video.